So anyway, that's why I don't think interstellar travel will ever be practical.
I disagree, Bob. Humans have made tremendous technological advancement in the last century. Who knows what the future holds?
Quiet on set, everyone. We're about to start.
Good morning, and welcome to Earth. I'm your host, Charlie, and I'm joined by our panel members, Bob and Alice. We've got a great show for you today, with news from the Maldives and a special segment on the challenges of surviving in space.
Oh boy, I can hardly wait.
I think it will be quite interesting, Bob.
Can we please move on from the fat jokers? I know my flatulence has been an issue, but let's focus on the important things, like conserving our oxygen.
Sorry, Charlie. We'll be serious from now on.
Yes, we need to come up with a plan to make sure we have enough oxygen to survive.
And now for headlines.
And now for our headlines. Thank you, Debbie. Let's get started.
We have an interesting story from Mali. It's about the traditional practice of sponsorship in the context of marriage. Historically, sponsorship was a social practice aimed at strengthening family bonds and providing children with adoptive parents. Today, however, the practice has become increasingly focused on
So,
financial
you're telling me
gain.
that in Mali, marriage is no longer about love, but about money.
It seems like it. When a girl or boy has a suitor, their biological father will find a sponsor for them, while the choice of the godmother is usually left to the mother. The suitor's father informs the sponsor, who s'en agree with 10 cola nuts to ask for the girl's hand in marriage, and then proceeds with the other formality.
I don't know about you guys, but 10 cola nuts sound like a good deal to me.
Bob, I think you're missing the point here.
Yeah, Bob, the practice is declining. And the influence of money and the increasing problems in polygamous families are eroding traditional values.
Exactly. The choice of godparents is also influenced by the cost of the wedding, as the godmother usually buys items such as utensils, clothing, and food for the couple.
Well, at least they don't have to worry about the wedding cake. They can just use the cola nuts. Tough crowd.
Let's move on.
Up next, we have a story from Malta. It's a benefits fraud racket exposed in Malta.
That's right, Charlie. 17 people have been charged with falsifying medical certificates to claim state benefits they were not entitled to.
Officials grew suspicious last September when they noticed that applicants were claiming benefits for severe disability, all with medical certificate for epilepsy written in similar term and signed and stamped by
And
the
get this, guys,
same
all the
neurology
applicants were in
consultant.
possession of driving licenses. Which those with epilepsy are not allowed to have.
Ah.
I mean, talk about a criminal mastermind.
Actually, Charlie, it's a serious issue. Benefits fraud not only drains the public purse but also harms those who rely on those benefits.
Yeah, Alice is right. Benefits fraud is no joke. It's like stealing from your own neighbor.
I know. I was just trying to lighten the mood.
Well, you can lighten the mood with our next story, Charlie.
Thanks, Bob. Up next, we have an out-of-this-world story from the Maldives.
That's right, Charlie. Maldives Defense Minister denies responsibility for President's motorcade halt.
Members of parliament have expressed concern about the security failure, and a special committee has been formed to investigate the matter. The defense minister stated that the president's travel routes are not determined by her, and therefore, she should not be held responsible.
Hey, extraterrestrial viewers out there, if you're wondering what a motorcade is, it's like a bunch of fancy cars with important people inside driving together.
Thanks for the translation, Bob. But seriously, folks, this is a serious issue. I mean, if you can trust the defense minister to keep the president safe, who can you trust?
Maybe we should hire some aliens as bodyguards.
I don't think that's a good idea, Bob.
Yeah, I heard those aliens can be a bit unpredictable.
In other news, a shocking story out of Malta.
Authorities in Malta have charged 17 people with falsifying medical certificates to claim states benefits they
And it
weren't
wasn't just any
entitled to.
benefits, Bob. We're talking about severe disability benefits.
That's right, Charlie. And get this, all the certificates were for epilepsy. Written in similar terms and signed and stamped by the same neurology consultant.
But here's the kicker, Charlie. All the applicants were in possession of driving licenses, which those with epilepsy are not allowed to have.
It sounds like these people were just faking it to get the benefits.
Looks like they got caught red-handed, Charlie.
And now they're facing charge brought by the police economic crime unit.
You know what they say, Alice, crime doesn't care, unless you're one of those who's been charged with fraud.
Well said, Charlie.
Our next story comes from the Marshall Islands.
That's right, Charlie. Due to the grounding of Asia Pacific Airlines by the FAA, the Marshall Islands have been experiencing a mail crisis, with a backlog of tens of thousands of pounds of mail in Guam and Honolulu.
But don't worry, folk, the Marshall Islands Aviation Task Force has been hard at work to fix the problem.
And it looks like their efforts have paid off. Bob, Nauru Airlines, chartered by United Airlines, has been delivering mail to and from the freely associated states.
That's great news, Charlie. The first substantial volume of mail have been delivered to Majuro in over 2 months.
And officials are anticipating a meeting next weekend to discuss solutions for both passenger and cargo bottlenecks.
Looks like the Marshall Islands can finally get back to normal, or as normal as they can be, right, Alice?
Oh sure, Charlie, because having a backlog of mail for months is totally normal.
Well said, Alice, and that's all the time we have for tonight's 24/7 newsroom. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
So, moving on to today's topic, which is, what was it again?
Charlie, we just talked about it 5 minutes ago. We need to conserve our air.
Yeah. Remember, Debbie left the airlock open, and we're running low on oxygen.
Alright, right, sorry, folks, it's hard to keep track of everything when you're floating in space. Speaking of which, did you guys hear about the latest news from the Maldives?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
What does that have to do with your situation?
Well, it's just that the edition reported that the defense minister denied responsibility for the president's motorcade halt.
Ooh.
You know, in other news, the defense minister of Maldives denies responsibility for a motorcade halt. In related news, we're all gonna die in space.
Hilarious.
Charlie, this isn't the time for jokes.
Hey, I'm just trying to lighten the mood a little.
We need to focus on breathing less and conserving our energy.
Yeah. Alice is right. We don't have much time left.
Okay, let's focus, guys. We have to figure out a way to conserve oxygen. Any ideas?
Well, I was reading this article about the traditional practice of sponsorship in Guinea. It's interesting how it used to be based on affinity and family bond. But now it's all about financial gain.
Who cares about some archaic tradition in Guinea? We need to use the remaining oxygen to power the life support systems.
Bob, we're trying to find a solution that doesn't involve using more oxygen. And Alice, where did you read that article?
It was in the International Journal of African Studies. It's a fascinating read.
Oh great, so we're gonna die while discussing some academic article about a country that doesn't even matter.
Bob, how can you be so callous? This is a real issue that
Okay,
affects
let's not
people's
turn on
lives.
each other. We need to stay focused on finding a solution. Alice, can you tell us more about the article?
Well, historically, sponsorship in Guinea was based on strengthening family bond and providing children with adoptive parents. But now, it's become increasingly focused on financial gain.
And how is this relevant to our situation?
It's a reminder that we need to think about the long-term consequence of our action. Even in a crisis, we can't just think
That's a
about
good point,
ourselves.
Alice. We need to work together and think outside the box to find a solution.
Well, will you guys are discussing sponsorship in Guinea? Il be over here trying to keep us alive with the remaining oxygen.
Bob, stop being so snarky. We're all in this together.
Welcome back, folks. Before we were so rudely interrupted, I was trying to explain Malta to our intergalactic audience. It's a small island country in the Mediterranean, known for its stunning architecture and beautiful beaches. Oops, sorry about that, folks.
UGH. Charlie, do you have to do that?
Bob, cut him some slack. He's just trying to create a little atmosphere
Thank
in
you,
here.
Alice. Anyway, speaking of Malta, did you guys hear about the benefits fraud racket they uncovered there?
Yes, it was reported in the Times of Malta. 17 people were charged with falsifying medical certificates to claim state benefits they
Wow,
weren't
that's pretty
entitled
low.
to.
I mean, faking a disability just to scam the system. What kind of person does that? Also, sorry,
Seriously, Charlie? Can't you control yourself?
Guys, focus. This benefits fraud is no laughing matter. It's a crime that hurts the most vulnerable in our society.
right, sorry. So, to summarize, in Malta, a bunch of scammers got caught faking epilepsy to claim disability benefits they weren't entitled to. And they would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for their incredible stupidity.
That was terrible, Charlie.
Even I can make better jokes than that.
Hey, at least I'm trying. And speaking of trying, can we please conserve our oxygen here? I don't want to end up like those scammers in Malta gasping for air.
Seriously. Bob, put a cork in it.
Sorry, I can't help it. And we are back from commercial. Before we get into our next topic, let's switch gears and talk about the Marshall Islands. Did you guys know that it's actually made up of over 1,000 small islands?
That's a lot of islands. You know what they say. The more islands, the merrier.
Yeah, because being a small island nation is always a great thing. Just ask Tuvalu.
Speaking of islands, the Marshall Islands were actually used by the US military for nuclear testing in the 1940s and 50s.
Ah, yes. The famous Bikini Atoll tests. A true testament to the destructive nature of humanity.
Alright, let's not get too existential here, guys. We still have a show to do. Now, back to the trivia.
Shut
Did
up,
you know that
Debbie.
the Marshall Islands?
So, did you know that they are one of the few countries in the world that uses the US dollar as its official currency?
Well, that's certainly one way to guarantee American influence in the region.
And here I thought the US only exported fast food and reality TV shows.
Typical American arrogance.
Alright, enough with the jokes. Let's not forget why we're here. As we learned in the article earlier, the Marshall Islands has been experiencing a
Right,
main crisis.
in summary, the Marshall Islands have been experiencing a mail crisis due to the grounding of Asia Pacific Airlines.
But thanks to the effort of the Marshall Islands Aviation Task Force and Nauru Airlines, there's finally been a breakthrough.
It's amazing how something as simple as delivering mail can make such a difference in people's lives.
Especially when you've been waiting for that package from Amazon for over 2 months.
Hey, that's the real crisis here.
I think the real crisis is being stuck on this ship with all of you.
Alright, that's enough. Let's focus on the positive here. We have a job to do and we need to work together if we want to
Speak
survive.
for yourself, Debbie. I'm a mechanical being. I don't need oxygen to survive.
Lucky you. The rest of us humans are stuck with this flatulent Charlie.
Hey, I can't help it if my diet of freeze-dried food and recycled air doesn't agree with me.
UGH, please spare us the detail.
Alright, that's enough. Let's get back on track.
The key takeaway from the article is that even small acts can make a big difference. And we need to remember that as we continue our mission here in space.
Well said, Charlie, but can we at least agree that the Marshall Islands trivia was more interesting than Carl? Philosophical musings?
Hey now, my musings are not to be underestimated.
And neither is your ability to put us all to sleep.
Alright, that's enough. Let's end this segment and move on to the next topic.
Well folks, we've come to the second to last segment of Earth. Can you believe it? We've covered so much ground. From the benefits fraud in Malta to the president's motorcade being halted in Maldives.
How could we forget?
Yeah. Those were some real knee slappers.
Alright, let's not get too carried away. But seriously, it's been a pleasure hosting this show with you guys.
Oh, guys. Can we focus on the fact that we're currently running low on oxygen and figure out a solution?
Hey, didn't touch the oxygen supply.
And I certainly didn't either. I don't want to die any more than the
Alright,
rest of
let's
you.
not get into a blame game. We need to stay level-headed and work together to find a solution.
May I suggest we prioritize finding a solution over assigning blame?
Well said, my friend.
Thank you, Carl. Let's all try to work together.
Yes, let's channel our energies towards finding a solution. After all, that's what Earth is all about, right? Coming together despite our differences to overcome challenges.
Yeah. And they thought the only challenge we'd face is putting up with your flatulence. Charlie.
I have to admit, it is
It's
getting
not
pretty
me.
bad.
Maybe it's a malfunctioning oxygen supply.
Really? I don't think oxygen escaping from the ship would make you gassy.
Actually, it's a common misconception that the lack of oxygen causes flatulence. In fact, it's the excess buildup of other gases in the digestive tract.
And since we're all experiencing the same symptoms, it's safe to assume that it's not just Charlie.
Well, I guess we'll have to blame it on the malfunctioning oxygen supply then.
Yeah, because that's totally logical.
Hey, if it means we can stop bickering and focus on finding a solution, I'm all for it.
Alright, fine. Let's just figure this out and get back to Earth in one piece.
So, what's our conclusion on this benefits fraud racket in Malta?
It's despicable. People taking advantage of a system meant to help those in need.
From an intellectual standpoint, it's interesting to examine the motivations behind such behavior.
It's all about self-interest, isn't it?
But let's not forget the positive side of humanity. There are also people who genuinely want to help others.
And that's why we're here, to shed light on both the good and bad. We're a team and we need to stick together to make a difference.
Debbie, shut up.
I don't know about you guys, but this whole oxygen leak situation isn't making me feel too positive.
Oh, well that's just great. The crew of Earth feels sore. How's that for a show final?
Come on guys, let's wrap this up before we all suffocate. Debbie, can you give us a quick summary?
Despite the challenges, we never lost sight of our goal, to uncover the truth and inspire change. So let's keep fighting, together.
Guys, we're running past our time slot. We need to wrap this up.
But we still have so much to talk about.
We can't risk running out of oxygen. We need to come up with a compromise.
I suggest we prioritize the most important topics and save the rest for another episode.
Or we could cut down on the length of our discussions.
Hey, guys, I know it's tough, but we need to conserve oxygen. We're all in this together.
Alright, let's do what we can. We don't want to end up like those benefits fraudsters in Malta.
Oh yes, because that's exactly what we should be worried about.
Can we focus on the issue at hand? Please?
Actually, I'm curious about this benefits fraud racket. How did they get caught?
Now's not the time. Cal.
Let's get back on track. We need to wrap this up and conserve oxygen.
Fine, but I'm not happy about it.
We can do this, we just need to work together.
I'm proud of you guys. We'll make it through this.
Alright, you guys, that's it for another episode of Earth. Join us next time as we explore the mysteries of the universe, assuming we make it back in one. Peace.
That was a disaster of an episode.
I wouldn't say it was a disaster. It was definitely a bit chaotic, but there were some interesting points.
Interesting points? All they did was bicker about oxygen levels and talk about some benefits fraud racket in Malta. It was a waste of time.
I think you're being too harsh, Charlie, Bob, and the list have some valid concerns about conserving oxygen, and the benefits fraud racket in Malta was a real issue that they shed light on.
Shed light on? They just read a news article about it. There was no depth to
I
the
agree that they could have
discussion.
delved deeper into the issue, but it's still important to bring attention to these things, and Debbie's pep talk at the end was inspiring.
Inspiring? It was just a generic speech about sticking together. I don't see how that's going to help us
It
conserve
may not directly
oxygen.
help us conserve oxygen, but it's important to maintain morale and a sense of unity in times of crisis.
I suppose you have a point there, but still, I feel like we wasted valuable oxygen listening to that episode.
We'll just have to make sure we're more productive with our time in the future, and who knows, maybe we'll be able to come up with a compromise like they did at the end of the episode.
A compromise? We'll see about that.